to be with you.
All right, let's go to our Fox News senior political analyst, Brit Hume. Brit, thanks for coming in.
You bet, Ed.
At the end of the second week of public hearings, you were talking about how you felt like Adam Schiff was almost ready to cry in that final summation, as if he had failed to make his case. Is that why we haven't seen the polls move, as I mentioned, that CNN poll, and on other polls that are moving, it's independent voters saying, we're not so in favor of impeachment?
Well, I think that Chairman Schiff had the goal of wamping up a groundswell of public support for the impeachment and removal of this president, and he hoped that the hearings would do that. It seems pretty clear that they manifestly have not done that. That, you take that CNN poll, which is identical to the one before the hearings, that's as clear an indicator as there is, and of course there are other polls that show slippage in support for impeachment among independents and some others. So, that I think Adam Schiff was sensing that was a reaction at the end, which is why I think he tried to add a little oomph to his case there with his emotional sounding closing statement that I spoke about.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, now John Bolton has been tweeting, as you know, as well. And he had another one today that caught our eye. He said, it probably goes without saying that our country's commitment to our national security priorities is under attack from within. America is distracted. Our enemies are not. We need to make U.S. national security a priority. Hashtag John Bolton. Now, you could read that as he's been itching to talk about what went on behind the scenes. On the other hand, he could be directing that one at Democrats and saying, while you're talking about impeachment, Vladimir Putin is laughing at us, and we might be asleep at the switch right now.
Well, John Bolton is a defense hawk. He's always been a defense hawk. This message that you're reading there is very much like John Bolton to say that. I suspect that he has criticisms to make of the president's policies in some areas, but I suspect that this president has bolstered defense spending and sought to rebuild the military, and that Bolton is with him all the way on that. Bolton, though, I think, Ed, is a very interesting case here, because if you're looking for a single witness who had the best view of what Trump was doing on Ukraine, it would be his then National Security Advisor, John Bolton, throughout most of the period in question that people are concerned about. And his lawyer, and to some extent he himself, have been giving all kinds of hints about what good testimony he might have if called. And, of course, they have decided they're not going to try to enforce a subpoena against him. And that leaves, an impeachment investigation without the testimony of the person who could be the best witness to all this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is an interesting position for the Democrats seeking impeachment to put themselves in. Nancy Pelosi, Ed, has said several times that that the impeachment is being undertaken solemnly and prayerfully, and to look at what's happening with certain witnesses, you might also add hurriedly.
Yeah. Brit, as you're speaking, our viewers can see that the Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence, is now on the stage waving to supporters. They got a big crowd there. We'll be getting there live as soon as the president starts speaking. But, Brit, I wonder, when you talk about John Bolton being a firsthand witness, we've heard so much from Republicans like Dan Crenshaw, we just heard from, that they've got no firsthand witnesses here. There's a lot of hearsay and all the rest. Is there a price for the White House to pay for not having John Bolton testify, for not letting Mike Pompeo testify?
Well, I don't think anybody really knows for sure what John Bolton will say or which way he'll go in this testimony. You know that he was fired by the president or resigned, depending on whom you believe, but he was ousted one way or the other. And we know that he had some disagreements with the president on some issues. And so you might think, well, he's going to stick it to the president. On the other hand, it's a little hard for me to imagine John Bolton, with all those years in the trenches in Republican foreign policy circles. And remember, Ed, when they were counting hanging chads down in Florida, John Bolton was down there looking over the shoulder of those Florida election officials. So he's been in the trenches for a long time. It's a little hard for me to imagine him going to Capitol Hill and promoting the case that Adam Schiff is pushing. So I think it's an interesting question, and he seems to want to be called. He seems to want to be subpoenaed to testify.
Absolutely. Brit Hume, we appreciate you coming in. Happy Thanksgiving.
You bet. Same to you, Ed.